Well, hello everybody, and welcome to week 2 and another video update. Okay, this week we're going to look at a few things. First, going to go over the assignments, not only for this week, but for the next 2 weeks after that. Also, I'm going to start a new series called Building Your Evaluation Strategy Matrices. And today we're going to cover the chain of impact, business alignment, and that matrix that goes with it. And I'm going to end with a short discussion of the 12 guiding principles. So let's go ahead and get started. Assignments, week 2, October 12th through 18th. We are there. All right, draft evaluation strategy summary. That's going to be due on the 18th at 11:55 p.m. Week 3. That was easy, wasn't it? Okay, this one's a little busier. Discussion board, assignment 1, a learning intervention for work engagement. This one's worth 40 points. We're going to need your post by the 21st, which is a Wednesday. That's to answer the questions in the assignment, and the peer response, at least to one peer, due on the 23rd by 11:55 p.m. Also, I'll be asking for your corrected evaluation strategy summary back on the 25th. So here's the deal. I'm going to get your draft evaluation strategy summary this week, get it back to you with comments, and you'll go ahead and return the corrected evaluation strategy summary next week. Week 4, discussion board, assignment 2, lean concepts in healthcare, 40 points. Again, post is due Wednesday, peer response to at least one other classmate due on Friday. Draft evaluation strategy matrices, chain of impact, business alignment, data collection, and ROI analysis plans. All will be due on November 1st. It is important to remember to use the Microsoft Word template provided in the assignment, and it's also on the resources page or the project support page, and it's under the title. There's a link that says Chain of Impact, Business Alignment Linkage, Data Collection Plan, ROI Analysis Plan, and that's where the template is. Please use it. Just updated it. It's looking really good. All right, let's get into this Building Your Evaluation Strategy series. We're going to start off with the Chain of Impact, Business Alignment. So the very first matrix that you'll fill out during your draft matrices will be this one. This is the Chain of Impact, Business Alignment Linkage, V-diagram matrix. It goes by many names, but essentially what you're going to do with this one is a needs assessment, and you're going to align up your program / project / intervention, whatever it is that you're going to be working on, at 5 levels of evaluation. So you'll determine the needs at those levels, the objectives for your program, and how you're going to measure each one of those levels. So I need to bring you back to the chain of impact business alignment, but before we get there, let's take a kind of a high-level view, if you will, of the ROI methodology model, so that you know exactly where we're at and where you're working. First part, and we're in planning the evaluation, right? Okay, you're going to start with the why. Basically, you need to align the programs with the business. What does that mean? Well, the why of the program is the business need. So determine, and your client will help you determine this when you ask the question in your draft summary. Is it worth doing? Whatever the it is, the program, the intervention, the project, whatever it is you're working. Is the problem worth solving? Is the opportunity worth pursuing? Is it value added? So here's the thing. You really don't want to invest in doing an evaluation on a program that's not adding value to the organization. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But Normally, and especially when you're talking about evaluating up through ROI, these are usually high visibility priority programs with high stakes, high dollars attached to them, those kinds of things. A lot of programs, suffice it to say, will only evaluate to say level 2, level 3, maybe 4. Okay, so there's a cost benefit to doing it that way and setting priorities. You probably recall from your reading only about 5% of programs get evaluated all the way to ROI. Now, having said that, whatever programs you're working on or whatever interventions you're building an evaluation strategy for, I am going to ask you to plan for up through level 5, and that is ROI. We'll get more into that later, but that is so that I know, and you know, and you learn how to develop a plan up to that level of evaluation. Okay, next, in planning, make it feasible. Select the right solution to your problem. So what are we talking about? We're talking about identifying the causes of problems or exploring ways to address opportunities. Sound familiar? Should sound like change leadership if you've already been there. If not, it may sound like foundations of HRD or HCD, if you will. So performance improvement, those kinds of things. So what needs to change to influence the impact measure? So let's say you have a lot of customer complaints. You need to answer that question. What do we need to change to influence that impact measure and reduce those complaints, because we're losing dollars, right? Okay, so what can enable this change? Could be a lot of things. Could be leadership and supervision, could be things like training and development. It could be addressing some issues that are causing your front-facing people to have a high turnover. Whatever those things are, it's causing your customers to be unhappy. You need to kind of think about that, and then work through and figure out what your best solution or solutions are to either addressing the opportunities or to mitigating or eliminating causes of problems. And this is like performance, human performance improvement 101. You're going to scan and do a gap analysis, root cause analysis, and work your way down to selecting an intervention that will work for you. What makes sense? Next, expect success. What does that mean? Planning for results. Okay, you got to plan for the results of your program. So define success. What is the success of a program? If it is like, we want customer returns and we want them to come back to us over and over again and be happy and that kind of thing, whatever those things are, you need to figure them out. Then you'll set objectives at 5 levels of evaluation, and we'll go over those in a moment. Define responsibility, who does what and when. Develop your data collection and your ROI analysis plan. So that's the high-level view from the perspective of the ROI process model, okay? And that's in your pamphlet, the ROI methodology in 12 easy steps guidelines. So please be sure to read that if you haven't already, and take advantage of the guidance that's in there. It will help you think and work through your evaluation strategy. Very good. Okay, so we're thinking about a chain of impact, business alignment, in this particular matrix. Why do we do it? In other words, what is this thing going to do for us to make it easier to plan an effective evaluation for, say, our learning intervention or performance improvement intervention of another type or some program in the organization? First, it assesses needs at 5 levels. That is reaction, learning, on-the-job application, organizational impact, and ROI. So it helps you link all those things together so that the lack of one level or a performance at one level doesn't cause a problem at the next higher level, that kind of thing. Helps you develop your program and your project objectives for each one of those levels. Helps you determine your evaluation strategies at each of the 5 levels. It also shows you your chain of impact. In other words, how needs tie into objectives, tie into measurements at the 5 levels that I mentioned earlier. It also provides structure, which makes it very easy then to communicate with your clients and your team members, people who are responsible of what is going on with this particular program, intervention, project, whatever you want to call it. So before we get too much deeper into the chain of impact, business alignment, let's take a closer look at those levels of evaluation, or the levels of evaluation framework. At the top, the highest level of evaluation is ROI. Basically, ROI compares program benefits to costs. It's an easy calculation to make at the end, and normally we set targets for it. I'm not going to ask you to do any math, by the way, so relax there. I'm not going to ask you to use the formula, but I will show it to you. And basically what it's going to do, and it's the same ROI that's been around for a very, very long time. It's program benefits minus program costs divided by program cost times 100. That's all it's doing. So anything over 0 is a win. Okay, that means that your benefits exceeded your costs. Coming more. We'll cover more of that, as you've already covered some of it in your reading, I believe. Impact. All right, this measures changes in critical organizational outcomes. If engagement is a critical outcome, employee engagement, then that's a level 4 impact measure. If reduced rework, reduced waste are organizational impacts or outcomes that cost you dollars, you can include those kinds of things. Okay, there's many of them. At this level, what we're looking at are the organizational measures. We're not looking at the individual participant measures, but organizational-wide measures. So kind of bear that in mind. We'll come back to it. Application. This measures on-the-job changes in the participants' behavior. What participants? Well, every project has a learning component of some thought, of some form. Okay, it could be a briefing, it could be a full-blown course or class, it could be a certification, but for people to change behavior on the job, they have to learn something first. This is not that step. This is the actual applying whatever it was they learned. So we start by saying, well, these are the participants. These are the targets of the intervention. These are the people who at level 3, we expect to see some behavior change in the workplace. And it's very important to keep that distinction. And I will tell you this, application, on-the-job application of learning or programs is the weakest link in the chain of impact. It's where things usually fall apart, and you're probably very familiar with the concept of transfer of learning to the workplace. This is where it breaks down, and oddly enough, level 3 is not as measured as it probably should be. A lot of times organizations will come to us and they'll only want a sort of a reaction sheet at the end of whatever your learning is or whatever your briefing is, and then follow up with measuring, were you satisfied with the facilitator, with the content, and maybe some aspect of learning. You may even ask them, did you learn more do you know more today than you knew before we spoke with you, or you took the course, or what have you? and that's usually where it ends. In order to get to impact or organizational impact that we mentioned here, we need to have application on the job here. Learning measures changes in the participants' knowledge, skills, and attitudes. If you want to say knowledge, skills, and abilities, that's fine. I've seen it many different ways over the years. Here's the thing. If you're trying to determine application, what they need to do on the job, what is the gap, there's going to be some kind of learning component so that they are able to make those changes on the job. Level 1, reaction and planned action, measures participant satisfaction with the program and planned actions. And this isn't just satisfaction with the heating and cooling in the room or the donuts or those kinds of things, although I guess those can be important too. We try to go into a little more depth. You know, we're dealing with adult learners here in our programs. And so we want to know, is this information, is the content valuable to you? Is it relevant to your job? Is it important to your success? You can still ask all the other questions. They're kind of important too. You know, if you set up a bad ergonomic or you have a bad environment, people may not learn as well, that kind of thing. But, you know, primarily the focus should be on, is the thing that you're doing, that they're learning, that you're asking them to apply, to have an impact on the organization and produce some ROI, is it worthwhile to them? Finally, and this isn't part of the 5 levels of evaluation, but it is important because as you develop your evaluation strategy, one of the things you're going to have to do is measure inputs or at least identify costs. And one of the things we're going to ask you to do is to identify cost categories for a fully loaded costs in your ROI calculation, which, by the way, I'm not going to ask you to make, but I want you to be able to identify what those inputs are, indicators of volume and scope. Could be anything. Could be if you're going to have a classroom training, for instance, as your intervention, there's a certain amount of cost that goes into developing that intervention, to delivering it, to the cost of the facilitators, any equipment, supplies, all of it. Even the time that the people are away from the job to go to the training. All of those things should be accounted for as costs, those inputs, as costs to your program. So that's the 5 levels. A lot of times you'll see them listed 1 at the top and 5 at the bottom. I am listing them here in reverse order today, with the highest at the top, highest level of evaluation, and the lowest at the bottom, so that it's in sync with our chain of impact business alignment that we're about to go through. There it is, the V diagram, your chain of impact. This is basically the same exact thing that you looked at earlier in the form of a template. The template, of course, is set up as a table. This is more of a pictorial view of the same thing. So let's get started. First, you're always going to start on the left. It says start here, right? Okay, needs. It's important to start with needs. What is the business case for your intervention? And what is the performance problem and its impact? Or it could be a performance opportunity and its impact. However you want to encapsulate that. Basically, you need to build a business case. That's why in your next assignment that you're going to be turning in, you're going to do an evaluation strategy summary. And one of the questions, or some of those questions that I asked you, are going to be to identify not only your client, but the program, why they selected the program, those kinds of things. That's very important to you because what it will do is help you work through your business case, determining what your needs are. But you got to take it even further than that, and we'll get into that in a few moments. In the middle, we have objectives. Now, these are objectives at 5 different levels: return on investment, impact, application, learning, and reaction. But basically, what objectives will you have established to address the problem and improve your performance? Or term it as an opportunity if you like, however you want to do that. But it's going to be at the 5 levels. The same thing applies to needs, by the way. Those needs are going to be different, but they're going to dovetail all the way down from payoff needs all the way down to preference needs. Okay, evaluation. That's the far right leg of the model. Evaluation. How will you know you achieved your goal or objectives, or that you've improved your performance? Again, at 5 levels, you'll calculate ROI. You'll have impact measures, application measures, learning measures, and reaction measures. Okay. So the left side of the model, where it says to start here, we're going to look at, that's your initial analysis using the ROI methodology. Basically, you're aligning, you're doing a business alignment and forecasting. On the far right-hand side, once you pass through objectives, that's your measurement and evaluation. So that's basically what that looks like. And if you kind of keep that thing nearby and in mind, it makes life a lot easier for you as you're developing your own strategy. Okay, chain of impact, business alignment. Let's start with level 5. Level 5 is ROI. Starting on the left, you're going to have certain payoff needs. What does that mean? Level 5 payoff needs should refer to a monetary benefit. Monetary benefit like cost avoidance or increased revenues or reduced cost from something. Whatever that is, term it in monetary terms or use terms like this to describe it. Because all ROI is about is money, right? Show me the money. That result from the benefits derived from the level 4 data. Now, here's an important point. Level 5 data is a derivative of level 4 organizational impact measures. So, for instance, if you reduce turnover and you reduced your turnover costs, right? That will have some financial benefit. Well, that will be the financial benefit to your organization. If your level 4 objective is to increase sales, well, the monetary benefit would be to increase sales at level 5 or increase sales revenues, those kinds of things. Okay, so I'm going to ask you not to include any data items in this cell that you intend to list as intangible benefits. That is level 5, or don't use level 4 measures that you don't intend to calculate ROI and stick them up there in payoff needs, because there's no point. There's another place for you to put those. Want you to capture them, but don't put the intangibles up there. So here's some examples. Cost avoidance from reduced turnover. I already mentioned that one. Increased revenues from new and repeat business could be another one. And there's many more. If you look at your ROI methodology in 12 Easy Steps, look at the text that you've been reading, you'll have even more ideas of things that you can use that will apply to the program or the project or the intervention that you're working on. All right. Return on investment, ROI. At level 5, all you're going to do is put in a target ROI as a percentage, and that percentage will represent the monetary benefits compared to the cost of the intervention, program, process, whatever it was, whatever it is that you're targeting. So literally, target ROI 15%, 5%, 25%, or something the customer gave you. I'm going to ask you to use your own professional judgment to estimate, guesstimate, if you will, what that might be in the first year. Okay, we're assuming all these programs are short-term programs, so they will be annualized. for the for first year benefits, okay? But keep it conservative. So most evaluators will set the target ROI at 25%. That seems to be pretty normal for our community, but 15%, you could set it at 50% as with other investments in your organization, or you could set it at break even, 0%, or use some other number that the client expects for that return on investment to be. That's none of those are uncommon. So your example here is target ROI 25%. Most people will use that. That's fine. Just caution you, probably don't want to see set ROI target at 600% or something crazy like that. Once you see the calculation, you'll understand why you probably don't want to do that, because you probably won't reach it. Although I will tell you this, many of these programs actually approach high numbers, but as is the old adage in our line of work, under promise, over deliver, right? You want your customers to love you too. So you want to be effective, but at the same time, all right, we don't want to set ourselves up for disappointment. All right, in the right part of the matrix under ROI, it's just this, and this will always be 2 words: calculate ROI. That's it. That's all you need there, because that's all it is a calculation. That is going to take the level 4 data. It's going to take your costs, and you're going to calculate your benefits, or your net benefits, and multiply it by 100, and that'll give you your ROI percentage. But all you have to put in your matrix is calculate ROI. All right, business needs, impact objectives, impact measures. We're talking about level 4. At level 4, business needs, the focus of your level 4 business needs must be on the benefits to the organization. This is organizational level benefits, okay? From what the participants of level 2 learning applied on the job at level 3. So that's a mouthful. So again, at level 2, people are learning new skills that you expect them to apply on the job at level 3, anticipating, and this is part of your planning, anticipating that by applying those skills or knowledge or attitudes on the job, that there will be certain business needs satisfied at level 4. Okay, it could be a lot of things. In other words, you could send, let's say, you determine that you need customer contact training for your front-facing people to deal to more effectively handle customer complaints, which would you would expect would result in reduced complaints and increased customer returns to your business, or repeat visits to your business. So level 2 would be the learning program for customer service. Level 3 would be the participants applying the skills actually on the job in the work center. And level 4 would be the organizational impacts of the participants having applied those skills. So that's how that works. Impact objectives. The impact objectives should reflect the business needs and describe the level of improvement that you want to achieve. We need at least one level 4 impact objective that we can convert into a financial benefit at level 5. Can I ask you to be sure to set targets for improvement for the level 4 objectives for the first year. Use your professional judgment to set the target percentages, but keep it conservative. For example, you can have an impact objective of reduce turnover, employee turnover by 10%, or increase repeat business by 10%. And that would fall in line with your needs. For instance, that you had a reduced turnover need on the left, a reduced turnover by 10% in the center column. On the left column, you had increase repeat business by whatever target you set by 10% in the center column. So basically what it's doing is saying how much do you want to improve the gap or the deficit or increase the opportunity, whatever that is. And again, in your text and in your 12 easy steps, there are ideas that you can look at that'll probably help you more than you realize right now. Work through those issues and fill out your matrix. Okay, impact measures coming up. List the measures you will use to gauge progress on achieving the impact objectives that you listed in the center column. Okay, so if I want to reduce turnover by 10%, I'm going to have to measure turnover at some point in my impact measures. And you can do this a few ways. You can do you should do at the start of the program before you even initiate or roll out your evaluation or your training or whatever it is, okay? And then at level 4, come back and measure it again, maybe 6 months later, that kind of thing. And I'll explain why. You need to allow enough time for the work at level 3, in other words, the application of the new skills, knowledge, attitudes at level 3 to become habit and be able to show some organizational benefit at level 4. What that means is you can't just kick somebody out or kick somebody back into the workplace, kick them back into play, if you will, from the training that you provided at level 2 and expect on day 1 at level 3 that they will have fully practiced and really honed those skills and develop good habits, much less have the results that you were anticipating for level 4. You have to allow time for this to happen. They learn it, they go out, they practice, they become proficient on the job and in doing what they need to do to get the results that you want at level 4. So allow time. Typical typical approach would be if you measure level 3 at 3 months. In other words, that's your level 3 is your application on the job. If you measure that at 3 months, you want to allow enough time for the effect to take place for the organization. So measure level 4 at 6 months. That's all that's about. So allow some time. Again, level 3 for habits, level 4 for impacts. So the example here would be turnover at 6 months or repeat business at 6 months. So let's take a look at this across. Reduce turnover would be a business need on the left. Impact objective, we're going to reduce turnover by 10%. On the right, impact measure. How will I know? We will measure turnover at 6 months. That's 6 months after whatever the kickoff of the program, the learning intervention has completed, or they learn the new procedure, whatever that is. It could be simple as a briefing or some ergonomic thing that you did, or they went to a learning intervention. But 6 months after that, you're going to measure turnover to see that if you've reduced it by 10% or 5% or whatever it happens to be. On the next line down, under business needs, increase repeat business. So you set an impact objective in the center at increasing repeat business by 10%, and you're going to measure it at 6 months to see if the application on the job at level 3 resulted in an organizational impact of repeat business at the 6-month mark. Application objectives, been talking about this a lot. This is, again, this is transfer of learning on the job. This is after whatever briefings, training, learning component, distance learning, new checklist, new procedures, whatever at level 2 is done. Level 3 is when the folks go back to work and they have to do something different in their behavior on the job. So let's start with performance needs. So level 3 performance needs are what you need the completers of the training at level 2 to do, apply, implement on the job at level 3. So if you teach me how to use a new software at level 2, at level 3, I should be using the new software on the job and using it correctly the way you taught me how at level 2. What on-the-job behavior changes does the organization need to occur to reap the benefits at level 4? It's a good question to ask yourself again to make sure you have alignment. If the new software, this example that I'm using, procedure, is applied at level 3, what were the benefits or the business needs at level 4? Was it reduced cycle time, perhaps? That kind of thing. Example, the participants will implement the new skills, policies, procedures, tools, equipment, etc. on the job. Whatever that happens to be, you can fill in the blanks, choose any of those that matter, but the key is implement on the job. So in this case, in the example I've been kind of running by you, the participants will implement the new software on the job. Simple enough. So what's your objectives going to be? You know what you need them to do. What are the objectives for application? Level 3 is all about using the new knowledge and skills from level 2 on the job. Think of it as the transfer of skills to the job or applying the new skills on the job. So example, all participants will consistently and effectively implement the new skills, policies, procedures, tools, equipment, etc. in their work. It's going to pretty much mirror, and you might have more detail, but it's going to be very close to what the performance need is. It's just that they're going to use it. You may embellish that a little bit by saying you're going to use it consistently, as to indicate that you want them to be using it all the time, whatever that procedure is. For instance, if you were to teach at level 2 a 10-point customer contact checklist that the front-facing people have to go through, you want to specify that you want them to do that every time. Let's say they're in a call center, right? And you want them to run that checklist accurately each time on the job every day. Application measures. Now these measures need to support the application objective to the left, or objectives, and allow enough time after the training for the new work habits to form. So some examples of this, and these are pretty common. Participant self-assessment of application of new skills at 3 months, or the new procedure at 3 months, or the new tool at 3 months, whatever that happens to be. Supervisory assessments of participants' use of the new whatever at 3 months. Customer surveys at 3 months. Customers will often tell you whether or not they're getting the service, and observing, for instance, your participants or your targets for your program doing what you ask them to do on the job. So those are some ideas that you can think through at level 3. The point is to align needs, objectives, and application measures, in this case, for level 3. Learning objectives, learning needs, learning measures, from left to right. All right, learning needs. Basically, what knowledge, skills, or attitudes do you need the participants to learn at level 2 so they can implement them on the job at level 3? So your example here is the participants need to learn how to implement the new procedure, use the new tool, apply customer service excellence or procedures, or whatever that thing happens to be. What do you need them to do on the job at level 3? That's what you're teaching them or informing them of at level 2. Learning objectives. So what are the level 2 objectives for the participants to show they have learned the new knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And it's perfectly okay here to use, no kidding, learning objectives, like major objectives, that kind of thing, okay? Participants will score 70%. And here on this matrix, you can use a high level, kind of capture it, kind of terminal objective. Participants will score 70% or above on the final skill assessment to pass the training or pass the course. Or participants must score 70% on the post-test for certification. Whatever that happens to be, you can keep it kind of in a high-level term. You don't necessarily have to go in and show us a lot of detail on that. Show that you have identified there is some, how do you say, threshold that the participants have to pass in order to demonstrate proficiency or enough proficiency to set them back out to the job at level 3 and actually perform what you need them to perform. And there's ideas about that in your 12 steps. There's ideas about that in the text. And then finally, when we get into the area of learning measures, how and when will the knowledge, skills, or attitudes be measured? I can tell you this, it will be during the training, during that first assessment, before they actually expected to fly on their own on the job, okay, or go solo. So example, facilitator skill assessments of the participants at the end of the training, post-test administered at the end of the training. And that falls in line with your objective. So we need the participants in needs, learning needs on the left, to learn something. They need to learn how to do something. And we have 2 ways of measuring that here. They'll show 70% or above on a final skill assessment. And how are you going to measure that? Well, the facilitator will conduct those skill assessments of participants at the end of training. The next one in objectives was participant must score 70% on the post-test for certification. How are you going to test? How are you going to measure that? Post-test administered at the end of the training. So all of these things should dovetail. Finally, preference needs, level 1. The focus here should be on the preferences of the participants you train at level 2 who will implement the program at level 3. What do we mean by preferences? Basically, this is your, what would the participants desire from whatever your program is, whether it be a learning program or some other intervention. The most important thing is it should have some importance and relevance to them in their work. That's important because if it doesn't, they're not going to try very hard to learn it, and they're not going to be overly concerned with applying the new content on the job or changing their behavior. So relevance and importance is something that I always ask for. Now, you can still ask for all the other things, like the shape of the donuts and the air conditioning and the skill of the facilitator, the quality of the learning products, whatever those things are. That's fine. The unglitchiness of the software, whatever those things happen to be. But as they say at the end of the day, the important thing in preferences, they have to see value in your intervention or project or program or whatever it is you're calling it. Okay, reaction objectives should indicate how you will know the preferences are being satisfied or being met. Example, participants rate the program content an average of 4 or 5 possible points for relevance and importance. Relevance to them, importance to their success on the job. So it's something that they really need to know, and it will help them along. Or, at least 80%, you can set whatever target you want, but at least 80% of participants indicate their intent to implement the program on the job by devising action plans. So that's something that you can do during during the learning program, if you have one, or during the briefing, is try to get a commitment. You know, at least ask them on your smiley sheet somewhere, do you intend to use what you've learned on the job? And that will give you an indication or some kind of idea of whether or not there's intent there to actually perform at level 3. There are other approaches to that. Some of them extend to full-blown action plans, which is a very good, and as a matter of fact, one of our case studies that you're going to be looking at in your discussion boards actually takes that approach. So pay close attention to that. It's a definite good way to approach it. And it also opens up for measurement at level 3 and level 4, and even going into level 5. So, but that's what you're looking for. You know, is it relevant? Is it important? Do they think they're going to use it, or do they plan on using it? So, I mean, those are good objectives to always have. Reaction measures. So, they should align with the reaction objectives and preference needs we just covered. The timing of the reaction measure should be during or at the end of the level 2 training event. That's when you measure reaction. If you have a training event, do it during or at the end. I've seen reaction surveys taking, let's say it was a training that was in modules. So at the end of each module, you might have to do a short reaction survey, or have your participants do a short reaction survey. And this is good for improving not only the content, but for improving your delivery of it. And that's not a bad thing. So, example, reaction questionnaire at the end of the training. Action plans developed during the training. So what we're addressing there is reaction questionnaires at the end of the training is addressing the first reaction objective, rate the program, content, an average of 4 or 5 possible points for relevance and importance. And then the action plan, of course, deals with the second objective in the center. At least 80% of participants indicate their intent to implement the program on the job by devising action plans. So this is all a pretty high level view, if you will, of the chain of impact business alignment and the kinds of things that would go in those 3 columns on the matrix. Always start with identifying the needs on the left at the top, okay? Express in monetary terms at level 5, reduce costs, increase sales revenues, whatever those things happen to be. Business needs at level 4, maybe whatever your program is or your intervention is designed to help. Could be reduce employee turnover. It could be reduce waste and rework a product that you're producing. Could be increase customer returns to your establishment, whatever those things happen to be. Performance needs. Now we're focused directly on participants or the targets of your intervention. That's your people. What do you need your people to do on the job? That's what that's all about. Learning needs. What do you need them to learn at level 2 to be able to perform on the job at level 3 to that new level, that next level that increases the value or the outcomes at level 4. And then the preference needs. If the people at level 1, the participants, your targets, don't see the value of whatever it is your program is asking them to do, to learn, right? To learn and do, rather, then chances are they're not going to do a very good job at that. So for each of the needs going across from top to bottom, you'll set objectives. Return on investment will always be a target ROI, set a percentage, keep it conservative, easily done. Typical is 25%. And on the far right, that box in your matrix, just calculate ROI is sufficient. That's just 2 words, okay? Impact objectives at level 4, application objectives at level 5, learning objectives at level 2, application at level 3, learning objectives at level 2, and reaction objectives at level 1, and then follow through with the measures for each of the levels: reaction, learning, application, and impact. Okay, just a few words on guiding principles, because as you're developing your evaluation strategy, you need to stay tethered to these. They're very important, and at least procedurally, on getting the most credible evaluation for your plan. In other words, this methodology is conservative, and it's conservative for a reason, and that reason is to have acceptance and buy-in from the clients, from the people that are affected by these changes in your organization or the organization that you're helping out. So pay attention to these, please. First one, when conducting a higher level evaluation, collect data at lower levels. If you're going to do a level 4 evaluation, you need to collect data for levels 3, 2, and 1. Because there is a chain of impact, and if you break that chain, you will not know what made you successful, if you were successful, at level 4. It could be blind, dumb luck. But if you had good participant reactions, they learned something that was applicable to making that level 4 happen, then they actually applied those new skills on the job at level 3, then the level 4 makes more sense. When planning a higher level evaluation, the previous level of the evaluation does not have to be comprehensive. So again, this is a kind of a cost-benefit thing. If you're going to do a higher level of evaluation, just get enough at the levels below it to support and to link into that highest level of your evaluation. You don't have to go crazy. Your evaluations probably, across the board, shouldn't cost more than 5% of your total operating budget, right? So just kind of bear that in mind. When collecting and analyzing data, use only the most credible sources. This is very important. If your client doesn't see a source as credible, you probably shouldn't use the data from that source. So this is where communication comes in. You want to make sure that you have some engagement going on there with your client and discussing what you're doing and going through your plans. And this is in a practical sense, whether you're developing a strategy or you've gotten to the point where you're executing it, or you're looking at a program that's been around for a long time and you're kind of building an evaluation, retrofitting it to an evaluation to see how the particular program has performed. When analyzing data, select the most conservative alternatives for calculations. So for instance, if you're taking estimates of how much impact your intervention had on the improvements that were made during that intervention, to be conservative, what you really want to do is to adjust for the error of that estimate. Okay, that's going to be the most conservative way to do that. There's also some other techniques. They're covered in the text, depending upon what you're trying to do. But be conservative in your calculations. Don't overboard them. Use at least one method to isolate the effects of the program. That's I was just kind of talking about that. So at least one method. Most common would probably be estimates, supervisory or participant estimates, corrected for error. It makes me happy when I see that in when I see that in your ROI analysis plan in that column. If you use estimates, Trend line analysis is another way. It's a pretty simple way to do it, but you have to have data before the start of your intervention to be able to do it. Also, control groups, which is probably the most reliable of all these methods to isolate the effects of the program. Sometimes very difficult to set up, so they're not used as often as we would probably like. And then also forecasting could be another method. Those are all covered in your 12 steps, 12 easy steps. Yes, isn't it sounding easier already? So your 12 easy steps and in the text. Most people for this assignment that we're doing will pick the estimates corrected for error. Sometimes I'll see a trend line analysis, and rarely we'll get back control group. So the more rigor in the method, the better. But sometimes, especially for our line of work, you can use our estimates. So how do you make that conservative? You get them, you adjust for the error. And there's very specific methods to do that. If no improvement data, and by the way, this is my personal favorite. It's not going to be on the test, but if you see me and I ask you, it's number 6. If no improvement data are available for a population or from a specific source, assume that no improvement has occurred. And I'll let that sink in for you. If you don't have the data, anything else is speculation, anecdotal, then no improvement has occurred. And this is important to doing a good evaluation. Now, you will have intangible benefits, and you will identify them, but those are basically level 4 measures that you choose not to calculate for ROI. We're using the ROI calculation. Adjust estimates of improvements for the potential error of the estimate. I keep stressing that one. I'm not going to do it again. It's its own operating standard. Avoid the use of extreme data items and unsupported claims when calculating ROI calculations. A simpler way to put that is throw out the outliers of really unusual, extreme data items. It reminds me of a video I saw recently from Burger King involving cows, lemongrass, and little yodeling cowboys. Look it up. You'll get a laugh out of it. But basically, they were saying that they had a procedure that worked, but it was on a very limited, extreme case, and it wasn't written up, peer-reviewed, or any of that. So not so much. They jumped the gun on the commercial. Their heart's in the right place, but their methods were a little off. Use only the first year of benefits in the ROI analysis of short-term programs. For our purposes and for your evaluation strategies, these are all short-term programs, and I'm only going to ask you to look at first-year benefits in your ROI planning, your ROI analysis. Fully load all costs of the program when calculating ROI. This gives you a more conservative ROI. So it's very important because it's in your denominator of that ROI formula. And it's also, those costs are also subtracted from whatever the benefits are in the numerator, that the larger the costs, the more inclusive the cost, the more conservative the return on investment will be. Include intangible benefits as measures that are purposely, you choose, not converted to monetary values. Sometimes it's so difficult to actually do that, to calculate a monetary value for a level 4 item, that you just simply choose to call it an intangible benefit. One of them could possibly be increased work engagement or employee engagement, that kind of thing. You might not have a specific measure. Can it be done? Sure. Normally what you have to do is tie something more tangible to that measure. So, you know, you end up measuring the same thing two different ways. But if it's something soft like that, I would include it as an intangible benefit, list it as an intangible benefit, and list the tangible benefits. So if you can have, in an earlier example, I mentioned employee turnover. Okay, so employee turnover, you can measure that at level 4 and the cost of that very easily. You may have, when you built your program, decided that if you increased employee engagement, the employee turnover would reduce. Okay, measuring the dollar value on that engagement is going to be a little more difficult. So I would list it as an intangible, but list the turnover and the reduced cost for the reduced turnover as a level 4 item, and then use that in the ROI calculation at level 5. Communicate the results of the ROI study to all key stakeholders. Reporting is vitally important. If you don't get the word out, then you put yourself in a situation of not being able to gain that support that you need, which also translates into funding for your programs and those kinds of things. So you want to make sure that also, if you've had people responsible for things like collecting data, reporting results, going to training, whatever that is, you want to be able to communicate some results to all these audiences that are involved, so that they see the value, they appreciate it, and they're involved. They also have more buy-in, which is a good thing. That helps with your credibility. So that's the 12 guiding principles at the end of the business alignment linkage and that matrix. Next time, I'm going to try to do a piece on the other matrices. That would be data collection and the data analysis ROI. Well, that's about it for now. As always, if you have any questions, be sure to reach out to me. You know how. I want to thank all the people that showed up to the office hour on Monday, and I hope I don't mess this up. I counted 6: Sonia, Elisa, Tiffany, Jamil, Gina, and Stephen in that group. If I missed you, poke me, and I'll be sure to make honorable mention of you as well. I don't think I missed anybody, but we had a good session, answered some questions, and we'll have another one of these in week 4, and then finally in week 6. So with all that, have a wonderful day. I'm going to post, of course, the slides to this presentation along with the video, so you'll be free to look at it. Also, I found the 12 steps, 12 easy steps pamphlet, downloadable version. So that's now on the support page if you want it. And also a link to the ROI methodology. I found that as well and included it. So that's all I've got for now. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk more later.